This is Computer Science Discoveries in Unit 3, Animation and Games, and this is Lesson 11 with Conditionals. So here's what's happening now. We've done an activity talking about some specific Boolean type of questions, which basically means that it's a very definite true-false. Okay, it's either yes or it's not. And so now we're going to see how we're going to use those as we do some programming to kind of open up way more possibilities as you are working in code.org with animation. Boolean expression, okay, that's true, false. And then we lead into these if statements. If something is true, then what can happen? And this is going to be incredibly powerful. All right, so you're going to see some new code. Notice a lot of this orange stuff is going to be in your math toolbox. The if statement is going to be a new location in your toolbox. Cool. So on this first one, they're having you practice a little bit with the Boolean expressions. And what you're going to notice is, and I'm going to make sure that I am on student view here. So what we want to make sure is that as we take a look at what's been identified here, so there's two sprites being created, and remember that the first two values are the X position here and here, and the Y position here and here. Sprite 1, Sprite 2. Okay. Now, it says this can be useful when we want to compare the properties of two sprites or the properties within one specific sprite. So what it wants you to do is read this code, and then there are some new symbols that you haven't been introduced to in here, but they want you to predict what you think is going to happen. So what you are supposed to do is say, all right, with these three situations, so this one is saying the Sprite 1's Y property compared to Sprite 2's Y property with that symbol, Sprite 1's X property to Sprite 2's X property with this symbol, which you've seen in math, and then finally the Sprite 1's X property and the Sprite 2's Y property. So as you analyze those three situations, what are you going to get? A true, false, true. That's A. For B, is it 0, 200, or 100? C says true, error, true. And your final choice is false, true, false. So analyze those, make your guess, then go ahead and run the program and see what happens. In 3, this is a video that we've shown full class. If you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, pause my video and then go ahead and watch this one. Now we're moving on into level number 4. So let's take a look at what we get to do now. Okay, let's do some experimentation here as far as seeing what we've got. In the math toolbox now, you don't just have add, subtract, multiply, divide, and random number. Notice that you have some new operators here. Very cool. Okay. So here's what they're asking us to do. Okay. The computer can answer these types of Boolean expressions that evaluate to true or false. It is saying, can you modify the values of the sprite properties so that each of these Boolean expressions evaluates to true? Now what you're going to have to do is scroll way down here and kind of look at what is happening. Okay, so the console log is just giving you these operators, okay, and then you will see that down in the debug console down here when you run it. Okay, so for example, what's happening right now, if you run it, is take a look what's happening down here. You're going to see these 5 different comparisons are all evaluating to be false. Okay, so this first one where it says Sprite 2's X property, it has exactly the same value as Sprite 2's Y property. So when I go back up and start looking at the code, okay, and granted, it gets a little cumbersome because you can't always see everything you want to see here, okay? Let's scooch that down a little bit, scooch this up, and then start moving down here so I can take a look at what's happening, okay? All right, so as you're looking at these and you're getting familiar, I'm trying to move my screen over here. I'm going to minimize me. So what you're trying to do is figure out how you can change the code here. I'm going to shrink my toolbox to make each of these statements true, okay? Don't edit down here. They're saying up here in your instructions, okay? Only change the code in lines 1 through 11. So to try to make this first one true, the Sprite 2's X and Y properties need to be the same. So you've got a lot of choices here. Right now it's at 300, 200. So do something to make those two be the same. Cool. Then come down here to this rotation, and it says, I want the Sprite 2's rotation to be less than 40. So let's find here Sprite 2's rotation. It's at 60. Change it to something less than 40. Let's look at the next one, comparison 3. I want both of my scales for the Sprite 1 and Sprite 2 to be exactly the same. So let's do that. Sprite 1 scale is 1.5. Sprite 2 scale is 0.5. So either change this one to be the same, or go ahead and change your Sprite 1 to match Sprite 2's size. Okay. For example, I might say 0.5 there. And rotation, this guy was supposed to be under 40. I could say 39. And then here, I believe I wanted these guys to be the same. So maybe I'd call that 200. Okay. Let's see the last two. The X property of Sprite number 1 greater than 150. Sprite 1 X greater than 150. Let's call it 151 just to be special. And then my Sprite 2Y property, I want it to be under 200. Okay, now be careful. I'm also using that up here. Sprite 2Y property. Sprite 2Y property. Under 200. Well, if I went to something like 199, that'd take care of this one. But then remember, your first one said the Sprite 2's X and Y properties are supposed to be the same. So then I guess I got to try to do this. All right, when you think you've got it right, hit reset and run. It's going to change a little bit here, and your job is to take a look and see if you've got all 5 true. If you did that, move on. In level number 5, you have to do some matching here. Okay, so read through these conditions, match it up with the word description of those, hit submit. Don't move on until you get them all correct. In level number 6, it says you've been comparing values of sprites to find out whether something is true or false. So let's start doing that in the context of the animation. This program draws a race car and a finish line, and we are going to figure out when the race car crosses the finish line. Watch what happens here, okay? When does it cross the finish line? Okay, so they're saying, let's take a look. The sprites have all been set up here. Finish line, race car. Inside my draw loop, I see the race car is moving. It's subtracting, which means it's moving to the left because it was positioned at an X position of 400. And they want us to add a console log statement. See how that's here in variables? So let's put that at the bottom, okay? And they're showing you where it is. Okay. Oh, they say put it there. Okay, fine. I don't really think it matters where. Then it says add a Boolean expression inside the console log that asks, is the X position of the race car less than the X position of the finish line? Now, hold on. In here, they don't want all those words. Go to math, and you want less than as your operator. Okay? Now, we're talking about the X position of the race car being less than the X position of the finish line. Go to your sprites. X property is the X position of one smaller than the x position of the other. As you are evaluating these, race car, make sure, type it in exactly as it was defined up here, and finish line is there. Go ahead and run it and see what happens, okay? It says, look at the output of the program as the car moves. When does the output change and why? Hit run and see what happens. And when they're saying look at the output, we mean down in this console log. Ah, see when that happens? Run it again. See what's going on. Ah, all right, we're going to look at this some more in the next one. In lesson or bubble number 7, it says use one more Boolean expression to check the condition of a sprite. You can use console log to check whether its scale is 2 yet. When I hit run, this apple is coming at us and growing because in here in the scale, it's increasing by 1/100th every single run of the draw loop. And keep in mind that it's 30 times a second, okay? So it's increasing 30 hundredths. If you watch down here in the debug console here and watch the watcher, you can see how this just keeps increasing, increasing, increasing. If you hit reset and run again, take a look at how that value changes. Okay, so here's what they're asking us to do. Add a console log statement. Add a Boolean expression inside it that checks whether the fruit scale is greater than 2. That gives you the information right there. Console log. Okay, greater than this time. Remember that we're dealing with the scale this time. So in your properties is the fruit animation there, the apple. Is it greater than 2? Go ahead, test it, run it, and see what happens. After you get done with this one, now what they're going to do is explain a little bit of what is going on with your operators. Please make sure you read what's happening, why they're using this double equal sign. Why is the exclamation point important? And then the way that they format these ones. Okay, take a moment and read through the information on diamond number 8. In 9, there's a short video for you to watch, so please watch that. When you get to level number 10, here's where they're asking you to go ahead and they're showing you this race car program again. All right. This is what was earlier. This is loaded in here for you, so it brought it forward. Okay. And it's saying now there's something new here. Do you see this blue under the control? This is an if statement. If statements usually go inside the draw loop because you want to check them each time your loop runs. So let's come down here. Here's the green draw loop. We're going to grab this if loop, okay? Move this, do from that. All right, so let's see. So I'm going to put this here, and it says, move the Boolean expression from the console log statement to, so that's this thing, okay? This less than thing. It says, move this inside here. Inside to be the condition of the if statement. So if this is happening, okay? Inside the if statement, add a statement to draw text on the screen to say winner. So this is kind of like the then part. If this happens, what do you want to occur? We're going to draw text. So let's scroll down here. This is this code. Okay, they want us to say winner. All right, and then see if it works. Now, as I look at this one, I'm going to tell you, oops, what doesn't it like? Oh, get that out of there now. Let's get that out of there. Run it. All right. If my car gets to the finish line, write the word winner on the screen. Something doesn't look like it's showing up. Wonder why that happens? I wonder if I need to draw my sprite up there. Let's see what happens. Run it again. Ah, there it is. Do you see? Because this finish line artwork is so large, it was covering up my actual text. Positioning that's important. I think this is kind of blasé and it's not very obvious. So I'm going to take my text size. I'm going to oomph it up a little bit. I'm going to move the position of this thing to be a little lower, more prominent. And then I think I'd better give it a better color. All right. Let's call it red. Okay. And let's see what happens now. Here comes the car. I'm watching as it crosses that finish line, and there it is. If you want to play around with that a little bit, go ahead. But this will be one of the checkpoints I want you to show me, all right, along with 7. Let's move on to 11 and see what's happening here. All right, on this one, now that you've practiced with an if statement, that goes here, and this should go inside your draw loop. It says you can do more than just check if the apple has reached a scale of 2. You can turn it into a pair once it happens. Cool. Use a conditional inside the draw loop to check whether the fruit scale is greater than 2. Now notice this brought forward what I already had in the console log. So now instead, I'm going to grab my if statement. I'm going to grab and put that there. And now get rid of that thing, okay? So if my fruit gets bigger than 2, if that happens, it says change the animation to be a pair. Now up here, when you defined it, in your drop-down menu, we picked apple, okay? See that? Apple. But I want it to be a pair. So what we're going to have to do now is grab another set the animation for the fruit. And then grab the pair. Oh my gosh, let's see what happens. As this gets bigger, 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 it should switch. Oh, awesome. I want you to run that again, and I want you to pay attention down in the corner to the watcher. Okay? As that scale of the fruit gets to 2, that's precisely when it should switch over. There you go. And remember, this is running 30 times a second, and that's precisely why it goes so quickly. Here's your challenge for extra credit. Can you also make the fruit stop growing once it turns into a pear? I'm not going to show you that one, but I want you to practice. When you get 11 done, stop and show me. And as always, good luck, and may the force be with you.